Hey, happy Mother's Day, everybody, and welcome to a Sunday morning cup of Ray of Sojourn for the Sports Savvy Soul on an improvisation Sunday, which I hope there's no, well, unless you forgot to get something for that mother in your life or someone who's a mother for your children or someone who's even just been motherly to you and for your children and you forgot. Then you're improvising this morning, but probably not. Most of you cast guys and girls out there, Tampa Bay sports fans, are pretty solid about planning for Mother's Day here. Again, Sunday, live Mother's Day from down at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. Let me ask you guys, Tampa Bay sports fans in general, what a roller coaster ride it's been, right? Just the season, and I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to November. I'm sorry, October, September. Helene, Milton, Tampa Bay, and then Bucks are moving up again. We're going to stay all week out of town to be ready to not have to travel during the storm, and of course, Tropicana Field and what happened with your Rays in 2025. And I got to be honest with you, I've been on that roller coaster ride just like every one of you guys and girls. My problem is I always put it on social, and you guys and girls are more couth and probably don't put it out there constantly. I got a comment already this morning. Bucks Rays Bolt says, let's go, from watching on my YouTube Tampa Bay Ray YouTube channel. And I had to go live immediately because I saw that. And I realized that I think I may have scheduled to start for 8. So if you're watching on the YouTube, you got bonus cup of Ray here on a Sunday morning. Because I was talking, getting the music turned down out here again because I improvised. There is a line of storms coming through. And most of you Rays fans know from yesterday's game. And that Victor, that walk-off, Jankowski, or as I call him, Jamkowski, punches that base hit and, of course, drives in the run to win that game and walk off. And when I say roller coaster ride for your Rays in 2025, it was because we drop all 3 to the Royals, and it was looking pretty bleak and pretty full of despair. But that was coming in after winning 5 of 6 on the West Coast. Thank you so much again. That was coming in after winning 5 of 6 on the West Coast, and so the roller coaster ride is up, and then the Royals bring them down. And of course, we win 2 of 3 from the Yankees last weekend, and I know that's to be true because I went live straight after that again down here last Sunday from the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, which, by the way, I'd be remiss, I forgot to remind you already. It's down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge District of St. Petersburg. And it's a rainy Sunday down here, but I'll tell you what, Ferg's, and I've said this because of the inside out, the outside in, it's what you get at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, the #1 sports bar. I would pose the entire Southeast, but most definitively in Florida, and most definitely on the west coast of West Central Florida here in Tampa Bay, is that you pack your fans in here. It's Florida. It's muggy. It's going to be like that. But the rain and overcast skies keep the temperatures down. And you got the Rays game at 1 o'clock this afternoon as they go for the sweep against those Milwaukee Brewers on every television in here. The beer is flowing out of the taps. You got the best food, best of the Bay wings and burgers. So without ado, first of all, let me get this guy in here. Bring it to the stage because this is my sports crew, and these are the guys I talk baseball with just about every day and everything else Tampa Bay. First of all, the guy who breaks everything for me, adding to the stage, Mr. Eric Hartnett. Eric, how are you today, brother?
What's up? Doing good.
So when the Rays committed 2 errors there with Pete Fairbanks on the mound yesterday, what did you think the Rays' chances were for pulling this out, even though it was still only tied?
It was after the game from a couple of days ago against the Phillies. I don't know.
Phillies one of the best teams in the National League, and I say that with tongue in cheek because you have the Dodgers, you have the Mets, of course, you have other teams on that side that are doing well.
We should beat the Phillies. That's the funny thing. Don't remind us.
Don't remind you about what?
The Phillies game. We should have won.
Wait, which game? Oh, the Phillies game. And see, that's where I was going with. Let me turn it up a little so I can hear you. Go ahead, Eric. There you go. That was part of that roller coaster ride because after we take the 2 of 3 from the Yankees, the Phillies are coming to town. We know they're a tough team, and of course, we know for sure because they're a single A team. The Threshers strain right up here in Clearwater. They're a solid team, but losing those 3 games, but having that 3rd game in hand, even though we still would have lost the series, it hurt, didn't it? Eric's my verbose answer. Let me ask you this though, Eric. So then the Brewers are coming to town, and you're thinking now, don't forget, after today's game, which hopefully the Brooms are out there at the Steinbrenner Field, or George M. Steinbrenner Field, but they also, right after this game, immediately jump on a plane and they head north. They go to Toronto to play the Blue Jays for a 3-game set, and the Blue Jays have won 3 in a row in the American League East. First of all, what would the 3rd game in the victory today for the Rays go as far as not only improving the record and keeping them in a tight race in the AL East, but also to improve their feelings or the karma of playing at Steinbrenner Field?
I don't know, man. I think we're still leaving.
Oh, well, don't get ahead of me. I appreciate that. Let me get this cat in here. Alex Dunster's. Alex, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
What's up?
All right. Hey,
I like the video. We are leaving the land of dreamers. Land of dreamers. Here we come.
yes. Tyler, can I ask you something real quick on your end? Give me a sound check 1, 2.
What's up?
Am I a speakerphone, or is there any chance your phone volume's up a little too loud? Because I really like to hear you for our conversation, but it's kind
You
of
can't hear me?
well, it's echoing like you're yelling from across the room. Or
I'm connected to a headset.
Oh, you had to do it because I wasn't getting you first. All right, let's stay with this. You continue working on the audio as we go. All right, my friend. Can you hear me, Alex?
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah.
Okay, let me put Alex out for a second. I'll bring you right back in. So, Eric, back to the thing. You already said, they're still leaving, but isn't it important for the Rays to get this sweep, even though they've already won the series? And this was the first of the last 8 games they've won at home, or not the first of the last 8, but a chance for them to win a series since they haven't since early April.
We lost 11 out of 12 at home, to be exact.
Yeah, I don't get that. How's it 11 out of 12 when we took 2 of 3 from the Yankees just last weekend? That's what I'm saying. If you count the 3 against the Royals, and then of course the 3 against the Brewers,
I don't understand. I don't understand the stat sheet either, but I don't know what they're talking.
Okay. Well, have you been watching the American League? Let me bring Alex back in here and see if he's back with us again. Alex, can you hear me now, brother? Okay. And yeah. Hey, I can hear you, Alex.
All right, give me a second, man.
No, you sound good right there. Whatever you're doing.
Give me 1 minute.
Okay, buddy.
I'm putting back out again. He might be dressing. I don't know. Even though he's not coming with video. Hey, it's business above and party below. But Eric,
you never know.
What do you think, Eric? What do you think about Watson, that big guy, the big kid from Florida, nose tackle with the Bucks, and Todd Bolson yesterday in his press conference? They were asking him about him.
Did you look at Parrish? I like that guy, Parrish.
Parrish? Yes.
You have an interception every interception. Dane might lose his job.
Who's going to lose their job?
Maybe Dane.
Oh, Jamel Dean? Just like Carlton Davis last year, or just like a player out there, another team might covet, and you get injuries happen through camp, or as teams get closer to the season, maybe they think they didn't address their needs. But also, did you hear about the kid, Benjamin Morrison? Morrison, right? Did you realize this is the first I'd really heard about it? And of course, again, yesterday in Todd Bowles' presser there at the rookie OTAs or rookie minicamp.
Todd Bowles knows his dad, right? They played together.
Played with Daryl Morrison with the Washington Redskins, and he's now the chaplain with the Arizona Cardinals, which I don't know how long he's been chaplain with the Arizona Cardinals, but there's probably a tie-in from Bowles. And when they go back with Arians, when they were with the staff there in Arizona, 7 years back, 8 years back, kind of explains to you why when you draft a kid there on second day, and he's got the tears in his eyes because not only, number one, he's happy to be drafted, still would have been a number 1 talent if not for the hip injury at Notre Dame last season. He missed most of the season.
I wonder if we didn't. Do you think we would have drafted him at number 1 over that wide receiver?
See, I'd have to see how, that's that's speculative at this point, because I'd still have to see how he'd finish the year. He might not have been the first pick from Notre Dame in that secondary of the near championship team with Notre Dame in 2025. All right, Christopher Cole says, "Morning, Ray." Good morning, Christopher. Thanks for joining us. Christopher O'Reilly, haven't seen Chris in a minute. Good morning, gentlemen.
How do you see those Lightning rumors? You've been following on the Lightning?
I'll get to that. I'm honestly, and it's not that I don't want to talk anything here with you, but the Lightning, I'm a little burnt out on them. I'm actually enjoying the rest of the playoffs. I'm enjoying the rest of these playoffs as the Maple Leafs are up 2-1 on the Panthers.
I'm ready to rebuild.
Well, rebuild, they started a little bit with Stamkos last year. What we need to do is we need to get tough. We need some guys.
I'm sorry to say it. Vashy.
Good morning, Tim. Tampa Bay Ray. Go ahead, Eric.
It's hard to say. I think Vashy might need to go.
Oh, you lose? No. You can't lose Vashy. I mean, Vasy's got to be.
I think we can. Johnson signed a 2-year deal to the goaltender.
The backup goalie, and he's shown some promise.
I think it's time. What do you think, Alex?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Alex. Did you hear what Eric just said? That maybe it's time that the Lightning could consider trading Vasy and try to.
No. Vasy is not the issue.
You just said in the playoffs. Remember, you guys talked about
Vasy is not the Bolts issue. The Bolts issue is defensively. I think the issues with the Bolts is you got the slowest secondary line, who's slow as shit. You got Victor Hedman, who has who, by the way, was named captain this year, which I disagreed with it, and I spoke with it on another podcast about it, but I didn't agree with Victor Hedman being captain. I just feel like his leadership it's not there.
It should have
You
been
can
Kucherov.
tell you missed Stamkos in the playoffs. Why? Not just because not that. Not just on the fact that the Bolts went like 3 for like 20 on the power play.
Yeah.
You can tell when we went to the playoffs, we lacked big time. You missed Stamkos. That's all I'm going to say.
But the injuries,
But-
we had a lot of injuries. I heard it was the injuries that was the problem.
Yeah, but
Eric, every
They
team in
were
the NHL
dividing-
has that.
the issue with the Bolts is the Bolts were relying on very young guys.
Well, Alex, that being said,
Lilleberg was a guy that they were leading on way too much. He had 2 turnovers in that first round.
Big age.
hold on.
Glavitz was another guy that they tried to lean on too much. He had 2 turnovers for that series. So I think the problem with the Bolts was yes, I think injuries had a big thing to do with it, but defensively the Bolts are not there. The Bolts don't need to replace a lot of people. Are mad at Vasi, yes, maybe a couple game or two. Do I think that big blowout? I think we lost like 6-2 or something like that. Was on Vasi. Yeah, I think that was his one bad game. He didn't show up. But the Bolts issue is not Vasi. If you really think it's Vasi, you guys are crazy.
Did you hear about the phone calls about Kucherov? Would you trade him?
Kucherov's not being traded. Stop it.
Well, let me ask you, Alex. Eric, hold on. Eric, we heard about all that, but Alex, who is your team leader? If Hedman wasn't your team captain for this team in 2020,
Kucherov or Braden Point. Or Braden Point, just because I think Braden Point has that extra. I wouldn't give it to Kucherov because Kucherov, he also becomes very, very, very lazy. You saw it in the playoffs. He didn't do anything. He looked so slow in the playoffs. Kucherov was practically invisible in the playoffs. He's a great regular. He's a great regular season guy. Obviously, he had over 120 points, which, by the way, is another Bolts record he broke this season. So he's a great regular season guy, but when it comes to the playoffs, just like last season, he's non-existent.
But he did help us win those back-to-back championships, though.
I am not saying
the integral part of that, but he is not a locker room leader. Unless you want,
he's not a locker room leader. Exactly.
Let me ask
he's
you
not
this.
a locker
I was alluding to this now. Going into 2026, who would your 25-26 season? Who would your leader of this locker room be right now?
They're going to keep it Victor Hedman just because that's not what they do. They don't just pass on the torch like that. It's going to always be Victor Hedman. I disagree with it, but I just think that the Bolts need to work in the off season. They're not going to. I'm telling you right now, they're not getting rid of Vasi. So get that shit out of your mind.
Yeah,
they're not
Vasi
trading.
Kucherov.
Vasi just had a very bad series. It's just that simple. He just had a very bad series. Had a very bad couple games. What's his name? Shoot. Lilleberg had 2 turnovers alone on himself, which, by the way, he was doing that before we went to the playoffs. I didn't like that pickup. I thought that was a bad pickup. Due to the injuries, he had to pick up too big of a role for himself, being such a young cat. But I just think that the Bolts are going to go into the offseason, depending on the cap space, and I think they're going to work up on the secondary line.
Well,
it's just my opinion.
The moving of Kucherov would give Brisebois a little bit of room for that cap. But Eric, go ahead. One more question Eric has about the Lightning, then I want to move on to the Rays. Go ahead, Eric.
Jonathan Cooper is a great coach. Why is he not changing the game plan for the Panthers for the second year?
That's a fair question. It's changed. But
I don't really think Cooper's to blame for this either. I really think the Panthers just came out and beat us in all phases of the game. It's that simple. There's nothing Cooper didn't do. It's just the Panthers are just they own us. They own us right now, and that's just what we are. The injuries were bad, but if you really watch the game, they really beat us in all phases of the game. We had We had three major penalties scored once. That's how good they are defensively. So rather you want to blame Cooper or not, I disagree with that comment because it's plain and simple. I just really think that the Panthers can play that series, and they just flat out owned us in all phases. It's nothing the Bolts can do. Sure, the injuries came into play.
Hold on. No, hold on, guys. Eric, Alex, hold on for 1 second for me. Let me go single screen. I want to run the show opener so I can do a few shares. Make sure you guys share it. We're going to come right back in with Ray's talk. So let me go single screen. Again, happy Mother's Day. I'm down here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge District of St. Petersburg. And I'm inside because it's a rainy day in Tampa Bay, as Eric and Alex will attest. So we got a little storm coming through, but everyone's moving inside. I want to remind you guys and girls again, today, game 3 between your Brewers and your Tampa Bay Rays from over at the Stein. Come down to world famous Ferg's, over 100 televisions, best of the Bay, wings, burgers, and taps, beer flowing, Cokes, water, the best of everything. That's the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. I'm going to go ahead and run my show opener because Peter Blake made a little change for me, so Facebook won't copyright it. And then make sure you share the show and come back. We're going to start with the Rays on the other side. We're talking Bucks, Rays, philosophy, Mother's Day. Wish that special mother. Make sure you reach out. It doesn't have to be actually a mother. It can just be somebody who was motherly to you. At the end of the day, that's the kindness, the love, and sincerity that makes Mother's Day such a special occasion and holiday. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome to a Sunday morning cup of Ray. I feel it's not terrible. I didn't know I was coming inside because one of the reasons why, even though it's rainy day here in Tampa Bay and there's a line of storms coming through, as you guys and girls saw yesterday, affected your Rays Brewers game over there as the Rays get the walk-off victory for their second victory in a row at home, going for a sweep today, which I pose is a pretty solid good thing. But I moved it inside. It's a little muggy. We're not using the room today. Coach said you can go from the Body Armor, St. Pete Sports Connection, Ferg's Bar and Grill studios in here. So I said, thank you, Coach, for that. I'm sitting down. I am dry. And the fans are on now, so I'm not going to be too wet. Let me go and bring back to the stage these two guys so we can get back into our coverage of Tampa Bay sports. We're going to be talking Rays. Go ahead and welcome back in Mr. Eric Hartnett and Mr. Alex Nunster. Guys, go ahead and let me say this. Yesterday, I asked Eric this question, Alex. Yesterday, when they have the two, when you have the errors at the corners, right, and Pete Fairbanks on the mound, knowing Pete Fairbanks' MO, what did you think the chances at that point of him locking it down and then actually getting us to that victory there?
Pete doing Pete things. You know, I know he's gotten a couple. He's not been a little consistent lately, which, by the way, I'm getting ready to get into that big word in a little bit, consistency. But, you know, it was a big jam. I told myself that if he gives up this run, it's going to be it for this game. He held it down. Sure enough, that was the case. And the Rays do some magical things, which the Rays do sometimes, and they were able to walk it off in the ninth inning.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Eric.
Sometimes we could be happy, sometimes we'll be sad, sometimes we'll be depressed, sometimes
it's a roller coaster ride. It's a roller coaster ride, guys. And let me ask you this, though. I got to ask you guys, both of you. I asked you guys this in our little sports chat last night when we were talking about a little diagram for the show today. I haven't been watching these games. I've been catching them all on the iHeart app through 95.3 or WDAE. Shout out to the guys, Chris Adams, Wall, Andy Freed, Neil Solons, the entire crew over there, Becky Boudreau, and everybody that brings a fantastic product. I'm not seeing these games, but man, when we're in the ninth inning and we have the runner on base and we're getting ready to Meisner's on base, all I'm hearing over the radio is "Let's go Rays, let's go Rays." Is this team starting to turn the corner on not the attendance issue, but but some of the issues what they've been having getting people out there at Steinbrenner Field, even as we get into the hotter months?
So I was able to go to the game on Friday night for the first time, by the way, surprisingly. And honestly, it's a very good atmosphere. I don't know why it's so hated upon. It really is a very good atmosphere. I believe, if I remember right, Brandon Lau hit a home run. They had the fireworks going. It's just a nice little atmosphere. I think it's a different change. Sure, it's a minor league ballpark, but where we sit and where I sit, our season tickets this year, which we renewed, are in the front row outfield. There's only one row, but the way it's set up, it's beautiful view, and it's a really great atmosphere. So I don't know why it's so hated upon. I know the situation sucks with the attendance and the stadium and the adjustment of moving to Tampa last minute and getting used to that outdoor. Now, I will say it's going to be a different change coming into more of the summer when it becomes hot, because that's the only downfall is it's very, very hot. Muggy. It's very humid.
I have a question for you guys.
Go ahead, Eric.
Should we just stay in Sternberger Field and get rid of the Tropicana Field? We'll just stay there.
No. The Rays need to buy time, and they're not going to buy time at Steinbrenner. I'm not sure,
why can we disown it?
I'm not going to get into the debate of the new ownership on this one, but I think what's going to happen is the Trop is going to buy time, because they're going to be playing until the end of 30. I think it's 2030 now. I think it's 2030. But
we're talking about that, Alex. But right now, really, City of St. Pete's going to spend upwards of over $50 million to put a new roof on that, right? So ultimately, yeah. I mean, guys, in '93 and back in 1993, when the Lightning were playing in a barn, and Tampa Bay Storm were just coming about, which they win championships under Tim Markham and the crew back then. But what I'm saying is that they came over to Tropicana Field here while they built the Amalie Arena, and they spent 3 years here. So, Alex, I see what you're saying. To buy him time.
Why did we get rid of? Why did the Tampa Bay Lightning then just stay there?
Well, no, Eric. All along, they were building the Amalie Arena downtown. All Hillsborough County and Pinellas County said, "Hey,
it's the same thing. It's the same thing."
Right.
So the Bolts used what was called at that time the Thunderdome to buy time for Amalie Arena to be built, and then, of course, as we know, the Bolts are now at Amalie Arena, and then the Rays kind of was gifted their place of home. Now.
Well, gifted's a stretch. They paid $15 million to play there.
$15 million today is St. Pete, right? Yeah, they did.
Okay.
But
Come on, Eric.
I will say I'm not sure what's going to happen with the ownership group. I'm not sure what's going to go on with Stu, and there's a lot of stuff about the Orlando thing, and that's been getting hot lately. Which, by the way, my opinion's my opinion. You guys know what it is, but I think that the Tropicana field is going to buy time, because if Steinbrenner will not work for multiple years. Steinbrenner is simply a good temporary fit, which, by the way, if it wasn't for the Yankees, which thank you, Yankees, I can't believe I'm saying that, the Rays probably would be in a very bad spot right now. I don't know where they would be playing at. I don't.
Remember, we almost moved across the world, across the country. We almost moved there.
No,
that would never happen.
But guys, let me tell you this. I'll tell you this right now. The only way, and I've been wrong on everything about this. You know, I'm the guy that still says the stadium gets built over here, even with new ownership, because it still makes sense. My 14-year-old daughter and I were riding downtown. We took a ride to the water. We do this thing where we go down, we touch the water, and head back to obviously we live on the Intercoastal on the west side of Pinellas County, almost near the Gulf Beaches. And I was asking her about, 14 years old. She's been to quite a few Rays games, but not a billion. She's not a huge baseball or sports fan for that matter. I said, what is it about the Rays? She said the Rays, the city of St. Petersburg was part of the Rays culture over the last 27 years. And then just in the same point, the Rays have been a part of St. Petersburg's culture here. And now you got blowing up and all this. Now every day, it's on any given night, you're walking downtown. There's 10 to 20, 30,000 people just walking the streets around Tropicana Field site. So we saw where the thought was to build that stadium as part of the new development, incur the costs for that stadium, and do it right here. I still say it does. We do it here across the street here because financially it makes a lot more sense than any billionaire groups wanting to spend the money and then try to build their own stadium in Hillsborough County. I just know that right now in St. Petersburg, the deal still says anybody who owns the Rays and are here in 2027 have part of this deal. Now, what scares me, guys, is that Mayor Welch is now starting to talk about how we can move around, we can start, because we're not just going to wait. We're not going to sit around and wait 5 years. We hope the Rays are in here or in Tampa Bay, which obviously is the biggest, probably the most likely outcome at this point. But we're not just going to sit around 88 acres. He's already talking about tearing up all that blacktop, 65 acres of blacktop, or whatever it is, and start developing that area. And the more that starts to come to fruition, the less likely any owner is going to be able to come get a deal with the city of St. Petersburg.
The only thing about it is what people are missing is, don't be surprised if the Trop replacement or repair actually doesn't happen. Because what you guys aren't seeing is they've only approved $25 million of the repair. Now, guess what? It's a rainy day. What's getting wet? It's supposed to be 3 to 5 inches of rain tomorrow. What do you think is going to get into the Trop and make it even worse? And the city's only approved $25 million, and that's just to replace the roof itself. That's just to repair the roof. That doesn't include any of the mold issues with the stands, issues with the front office. There's so much more money. Now, I'm going to remind you guys, do not be surprised. Don't be surprised at that extra additional, because I think it's going to cost way more than $50 million. Like I said, it's a nasty day out today. Yes, it hasn't been raining in a while. I would have liked to see the roof done in the winter months. They did not do that. That was a big mistake. That was a very big mistake, not doing it during the winter months. You're getting into the rainy season. We're getting 3 to 5 inches of rain over the next 2 days. You don't think that's going to make the situation even worse? We need the rain in Tampa, but the Trop getting 3 to 5 inches of rain in it's not a good deal. But guys,
it's about 3 weeks from now. 3 weeks from
now. 3 weeks from now, we get into the rainy season where it storms every day, and the Rays took too long. So I don't see the rest of the money being approved. Because again,
could we destroy that stadium and just build it right there?
But the problem is that the Rays don't have a temporary home. Sure, it's very easy to take something and tear it down and rebuild, but at the end of the day, it doesn't happen overnight. We've been dealing with this for years, and the only way. Listen, I don't see. We can sit here and talk hours about how we think there's going to be a stadium deal in St. Pete. There will never be a stadium deal in St. Pete ever again.
Well, and I mean,
What's your
Stu
percentage?
sells. Unless Stu sells.
and let me
Zero.
finish
Zero.
this. The only way the Yankees will play at Steinbrenner Field in 2026 is if somehow the city of Hillsborough County or Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa and the new owners, whoever would buy this, because it's not going to be Stu. Stu wouldn't spend a dime, but the new owners made a deal with the Yankees to somehow accumulate that land, because I still love it. You guys know when we're watching the Rays game and they're talking about the winds yesterday coming in with the little lines of storms, and they're showing that Bucks flag waving right with the Rays flag, and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, geologically, except for that 1 or 2 games a year where the Bucks and Rays might have the same game on the same day, I don't know how other cities do it. They figure it out with the scheduling. But if they got that, they're not the city of St. Petersburg. And here's the thing, Alex. The only way city of St. Petersburg is not going to put a tarp back on. I actually call it a tarp because it is. It's a little more structured than that, but it's 10,000 Coleman tents spread out perfectly. They got to have it done in China, ship it through Russia. Then it has to go to Thai. It's going to pick up tariffs from every country. But the only way the city of St. Petersburg doesn't put a roof back on that is if they can get a buyout. Because remember, they're on a roof. They're on the hook for the next 2 years for this team where they play.
Tampa owns the one in Sternberg because that's where it's in Tampa.
Listen, Sternberg, I'm going to get it in your mind, Eric.
Please.
Sternberg is not a long-term solution. It's only a 1-year deal. They do not. I promise you. I've talked to many Rays staff. As a season ticket holder, you know a lot of people. I've talked to many people throughout that stadium over the weekend. And I'm telling you, they do not want to be there. It's not a long-term fix. That's what they had to do. They had to do that. What I do know is that.
Oh, breaking news.
No.
What do you know?
What I do know is that we're going to be in a limbo going into next season because there's been a lot of rumors that if the Rays can't get a re-entry into Steinbrenner, that they're going to go to Orlando at the Worldwide of Sports and play there because the stadium there is more. There's a word for it. It's conducive. Okay, that's a good word. It's more conducive for something like this. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to add this, and then I really didn't want to.
Do they take the name? Do they take the name Dreamers though for that year or two they're over there? I mean, let's take this.
I have a question.
I do want to add this. I do want to.
Are we driving to Orlando to go to?
It doesn't matter what.
Eric, people are driving to Hillsborough County to go to a Rays game right now.
People are driving to Hillsborough County. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to talk about the Rays. It's helping out to get out of here. To end, because I didn't want to talk stadium talks, but to end stadium talks, I will say that it's a nice atmosphere there. I felt a very good vibe. If you haven't been there, it feels very small. I can walk around the entire stadium in probably 5 minutes. It's not very big, but it works. It's got a good atmosphere when the Rays win. When the Rays are winning, it's obviously a very good atmosphere. But it works. It's nice. It's a good fix for the situation that we're in. Now,
Alex, let me finish this. I want to get back to, you're right. I want to talk about yesterday's game, the importance of possibly a sweep, and then before we go on the road to play the Toronto Blue Jays here tomorrow.
Let's talk about the Rays.
I want to talk about forget the stadium issue. Yeah, you're right. That's going to be in limbo for 2 years, I think. But the attendance. I mean, we had the Yankees in town, and then we had the Philadelphia Phillies, we have a huge Philadelphia following here, and they train right up the field there at the Baker Park and the Threshers A team. So those two games put aside. You're telling me that Friday night, and what I think I heard yesterday on the radio there on WDAE, the radio of the Rays radio, whatever, is I heard a pretty vocal and a pretty cheery, a really fun Tampa Bay Rays crowd. And you felt that vibe on Friday night?
It's a very good vibe. And I don't care what the negative people that sit on their couch and don't go to games say, but it's a very good vibe. It's a very small vibe, but it's a good vibe. And for the situation we're in, I personally like it. Again, I like the whole, when you get a home run, there's fireworks. It's all a nice, good vibe. It works. Now, talking about the attendance real quick, and then I'll talk about the Rays before I go. as a whole.
Forget the attendance. Let's do the
I
attendance
say,
another time.
no. I
Don't
want
go
to
down
add
that
to this.
rabbit hole. Okay,
No, I'm not.
Finish it for us.
I feel like the Rays attendance issue is only because of the lack of team production, which will go into the Rays itself now. I think that'll improve. You're starting to see, even in this series right here, a little better baseball. You're seeing guys like Taylor Wallace hit the ball now. He's been having a good couple games. A lot of people aren't talking about that, though. A lot of people aren't talking about that. He's been turning around, getting some key base hits, taking some big walks. He's been turning it around. I would like to see Brandon Lau turn it around. That's a key guy that we really need to be hot, because not only is he the highest paid guy on the roster, he's the leader of the offense. He was supposed to be the leader of the offense, just because of his age and who he is as a slugger. So if you can get Brandon Lau to turn it around, I think if the Rays start winning more games and getting back to the Rays way, the attendance issue will definitely go up. But what a great game yesterday. What a great win. In the ninth inning, didn't know what was going to happen. I personally said, if we score here, we're going to lose this game. But Pete Fairbanks doing Pete things. And then, of course, the new guy getting a good base hit to walk it off. And he's been a great addition.
Let me ask you that. I want to ask you about Trevor. I want Jankowski. I want to ask you, this guy's been at 8 Major League Baseball teams in a storied career, first drafted by the Padres, comes from Pennsylvania. What is Palkowski? What has he meant to this team? Jankowski.
So let me tell you, yes. So let me tell you about the Rays. The Rays have had situations where a lot of players have been bad and came to the Rays and just been good. And I think that's where the Rays organization is so underrated. I liked him coming over. I thought it was a good piece. I hate to say this. I am going to say it. I think he's Josh Lau's replacement. A lot of people don't see it, but I'm going to tell you my prediction. I'm going to be bold with it right now on a couple Ray. I think that Josh Lowe's time as a Ray is coming to an end. Can't stay healthy. I think he's in an assignment right now in Durham. I heard he had a setback. I haven't heard anything else again. I heard he got set back again. So I really think a guy like him was huge to bring in. It didn't cost us anything. I think we gave up a little bit of cash, but it was a good pickup, another good pickup, and it was key yesterday in a Rays walk-off.
And let's be honest, with Josh Lowe there in right field, they were talking about he was going to take advantage of that short right porch there at Steinbrenner Field. And at this point right now, the last thing, what Jankowski gives you, what he brings this team is the ability to make contact. Right? He's not going to be a huge power hitter, but he's going to be more of a contact hitter. And I mean, even Kevin Cash alluded coming into the season, this season we're going to work more on moving guys over bases. And the Rays have been terrible at times this year already with stranding so many men on base. So right now, as much as we can get a Low back, and maybe he does come back at some point, I would not be surprised in the short term if it's more important having contact hitters in this lineup that can also play outfield. Yeah,
but I'm going to say this 100 more times, and I said it on the Sports Web the other day, and it became into a huge debate with certain others who's not really even a Rays fan. But I really think the Rays issue is the Rays front office and how they run things. The Rays, yes, I do agree that maybe we don't have that bulk key couple hitters that we could have. But it's just the way we run our organization, the way we run our lineup. I don't like when you sit a guy like Aranda who's been hot and you sit him on a cold, you sit him and then he gets cold. Like yesterday, he sat and then you pitched hit him and he looked like crap. And you could tell by his swing. There's a lot of things that I noticed about certain players, but you can just tell when you're playing consistent versus when you're not playing consistent. It just shows. And I think that's what really hurts the Rays is I don't know if it's an analytic thing. I don't know if it's more of a righty-lefty matchup thing. I don't believe in that. I believe if a guy is hot, he had 4 base hits, 4 for 5 for the day. He needs to be in the lineup the next day, and he needs to stay in the lineup until maybe he has that cold day that he's actually been consistent, and he falls off. But I just think that's where the Rays problem always has been. And of course, we're going to allude back to the 2020 World Series when analytics came in big time with the Blake Snell pull.
He's out of here. I'm not talking Blake Snell. I'm not going back to the bubble series. I'm kidding.
We're not. But
I'm kidding.
No. I'm saying that just because I just believe that analytics are way too much in the Rays game, and I think it hurts them. I think the Rays easily are on top of the division right now. If you're not letting matchups, and it sucks for Kevin Cash because Kevin Cash really is such a good manager. But what people don't understand about it, and I'm guilty of it too, when I get mad and say, "Oh, Kevin Cash didn't do this, or Kevin Cash didn't do that, or Kevin Cash put this guy in the pitch, or didn't put this guy in the pitch." We can all sit here and debate on a Rays loss, but don't you think for 1 second that front office has full control of what's going on and who and what a lineup, who pitches,
Alex, I agree.
Y, and Z.
So, and I get that because we hear that more and more, and it seems to be the narrative. And it comes from the credentialed media that have maybe a whole lot more access to some inside scoop than maybe just little old me here, Cup of Ray. But I mean, if the front office does 100% do that lineup every day, they go righties against lefties, they put people on the bench at their own, they do it at their own prevail. I'm gonna say prevail. They do it at the cost of themselves, because I would say that analytics could get you 75% there as far as the type of team you put together. Moving runners over, less of a thing because of the market they still stay in. It's just, and let's be honest about that. If this team stays in Tampa, short of putting some kind of a Disney World together that's going to make the revenue around that stadium just as inclusive as the inside of the stadium, you're not going to all of a sudden become a Yankees, a Dodgers, a Mets. You're not going to be spending $200 million on a salary, because at the end of the day, baseball works in similar nature the way it has for 27 years. Just hopefully you've got people that aren't so stingy with it, and leader, owner of a team that has more enjoyment putting some money back into it and putting a winner on the field.
And I will say that and we've been saying this for 15, 20 years, is we do need an owner that will give back in. And yes, I will say, because I'm sure they might be watching, I do agree with the comments that were said on the other day about, keeping key guys are huge. I'll tell you two players we traded last year who are lighting it up, and one had a key game-winning hit yesterday, and that's Isak Paredes and Randy Rosarena.
Yeah.
Those are two guys that, just because contracts are due, guys are due for money. We're cheap. We don't know what it means to have a winning or to keep players, and it sucks. And I think that's where, we can talk a million times about how we need new ownership. So regardless of the stadium, and even if we get it fixed, everyone's saying, and we've all been saying for 15, 20 years, how this organization could be so much better if we just had decent ownership who loves Tampa Bay. Right. And I'm going to say this. I had a good conversation with a buddy yesterday. We were talking about that too. And it was such a good conversation. I inboxed JP Peterson, and he actually replied. And I had a question for him, and I said, how many years has this been going on? And it's been about 10 to 15 years that fans have been saying, we just want new ownership. And the reason why I'm saying all that is to put it into a good point to say that it's not necessarily the players we have, it's who you're playing for.
Whoa. Who you're playing, okay, like the owner.
Who you're playing for, the owner of the organization. Because when you have a guy, a lot of these players are tied into Tampa Bay. A lot of these players, like Brandon Lowe, who's been here for 6+ years already. Yandy Diaz, these guys who've been here for so long, who love Tampa Bay, have given it to Tampa Bay. And you have an ownership who bashes our entire community on national news after 2 major hurricanes. and a reason to back out of a major deal after you approve is just heartbreaking. It's so hurtful. On top of the not keeping the players and all this stuff that goes into it.
Hey, Alex, I'm not disagreeing with you that what he did, the way he leveraged it and everything. I will say this, just like a lot of citizens who live here, just like every one of us who are homeowners here, after those 2 storms, we had to do kind of a checkup from the neck up as far as, what do we have to do to plan for the future? What are we looking at as far as coastal hurricanes moving forward? A couple of years in a row, we dodged one in 17 with Irma, and now we have this. And it's been a little, not 17, but it's been a little crazy. I can't say I completely blame Stu Sternberg. I hate him as our owner. But I can't blame him as a businessman when all this happens and he realizes that the best place to go is going to be the new, Steinbrenner Field there in Hillsborough County. And all he's been hearing for 27 years is build it, let them come and we'll fill out. And he had to see that experiment. From that standpoint, I don't blame the guy for having to do that. He could have, because think about it. If he says, I'm going to stay here in St. Pete, I'm going there for 2 years.
But
he's as a businessman, he's doing what a businessman does.
I want to ask you a question. And I'm going to ask you the most important question I've ever asked anybody when it comes to the stadium and Stu and all this stuff.
Okay.
Here's the question. Had this been solved 10 years ago, knowing that the Trop was not built the way it was 20 plus years ago when the Trop was built, had he agreed to multiple deals with these stadiums, Tampa, the Ybor site, which was almost approved, the whole here to stay, the reason why I'm blaming him for Steinbrenner, because this was a part of the question I kind of tied in with Peter, and I actually asked JP himself. Had he agreed to a deal himself multiple years ago, this situation with Milton and Tropicana Fields never happens. No, now you're in a position where tariffs are a thing now. Now it's even more, which by the way, tariffs are now a thing now. So you don't think that Trop's going to be even more to fix?
No, hey, 100% right. Let's get off. We were going to stop talking about the stadium minutes ago. How important could this sweep today for the Rays be before they get on the road?
It's huge because, listen, the division is not playing that well. I was talking to my nephew about it yesterday. The Yankees gave up 7 runs in the 8th and 9th inning, or the 7th and 8th inning game yesterday against the Oakland A's, which, by the way, shockingly are very good this year. They're going to be a team that you need to watch, by the way. They have just as good as a record as the Yankees right now. Especially with their situation.
And let me go ahead and say this. I'll say this because it's a lot of a very different situation. Of course, Major League Baseball owners unanimously approved the A's to move to Vegas, but they're playing this year in Sacramento. And even as hot as the A's are, you look at their attendance, and because people aren't yet, and it's a different, like I said, different dog of a different coat, if you will. But even they're not packing them in. Is baseball just having? I mean, I see stadiums where they're packing them in. Is baseball just having a stadium with a problem with attendance all around in 2025?
Yeah.
Even Yankee Stadium. I mean, it
really has. And I'm not saying that the baseball is getting more off the market. I mean, I was watching the Rays and the Yankees in Yankee Stadium a couple. I think it was the last series. I noticed that they had a lot of empty seats.
There were a lot of empty seats.
They had a lot of empty seats, and that's in a division rival against the Rays. They've always had sold out. So I'm not saying that baseball is not becoming a thing of the thing of the market, but I will say a lot has to do with it. Are you going to pay your rent over going? I'm not using this as an excuse, but things over the last year and two have been really expensive, and I speak for itself because I travel for a living, so I know all about seeing things, the prices rise and all the stuff. Even as a season ticket holder, our prices at Steinbrenner quadrupled. So by the way, which is a whole other thing about the attendance. If you talked about the attendance, don't forget about that part. Get them $10 tickets. Get them $10 tickets going again, because these ticket prices, man, they're outrageous, buddy. They are not like, huh?
Didn't they come down a lot after the season started, and they're just going to be price flex?
They're still way more than they were at Trop. And I'm just being honest. In my opinion. But talking about the team, though, because I stay on the subject of the team, it is going to be huge if we can sweep this because I think we head to the Jays. I think we head to the Jays next in Toronto.
The Blue Jays are the only team hotter in the AL East in the race. They've won 3 in a row, and they're ahead of us, or tied, just ahead of us there in the standings.
Yeah, like I said, and they're not playing the best either, by the way. So the division is still very wide open. So for all the Rays fans upset and down right now, which, by the way, it's disappointing because a lot of our losses this year, Ray, if you really think about it, have only been by run. Have only been because we can't have that one clutch hit or that one base hit. Right. I can't tell you. I don't think I remember the last time the Rays have lost more 1-0 games the first 3 weeks of the season than I have with this team.
Well, then, on that note, doesn't that mean that Rasmussen needs to get a little more run support here today so we can get a victory at home and get the sweep over these Brewers?
Yep, I do think that. I do think that the issue with the Rays is, and their pitchers, is the run support. And again, it goes back to the offense. But I will say, I want to keep you in a reminder that some guys are really turning it around. I'm going to tip my cap to Taylor Walsh. He's really having a good series. He's really coming around. And unfortunately, the reality of it is we're going to have to rely on him until Kim comes up, which probably will be another month or two. So it's really good to see his back gets alive, and that's going to be huge. But how disappointing has guys like Danny Jansen been? Our catching position. My God, that was the highlight of our offseason, Ray, is that we were going to have this good catcher come in. And honestly, he really hasn't impressed at all.
I've always said that the way Kevin Cash, or the way he sets up these catchers, is he wants receivers from these good pitchers, right? Because you got a dynamic pitching staff, and you want guys that form the box, that receive it well, and offense seems to take a back seat to it. Now, I wonder how much of that is the way Kevin Cash just wants his catchers, or who they look for, or how much that could be the analytics department that says it's more important to just be a defensive catcher and let the offense take care of itself. That's probably a conversation for another day, my friend.
Yeah, that's a whole other day. But that goes back to the analytics thing. But long story short, instead of getting into all that part of the conversation, it just would be really nice for him to turn it around. I think he had a base hit yesterday, if I remember right. So so let's look at the positives and not so much of the negatives, because a lot of these slumping guys like Walls and even him with a good base hit yesterday have been kind of turning it around. So if you can take that and build, and like I said, don't ever look at the standings. I don't ever look at the standings until the All-Star break. Don't look at the standings now and be like, oh, we're in last place. We're 4 games back. 4 games back ain't nothing to this division this year. Because if you look at some of the losses, like the Yankees yesterday, who blew they came back like 6-4 and gave up 7 runs in 2 innings. Yeah. So this division is very much alive and very well wide open. So you're talking about your initial question on how key is it to get a win today? It'd be huge because guess what? You're going to play the average, in my opinion, Toronto Blue Jays in Canada, which, by the way, the Rays have been very good on the road. Keep that road streak alive. Go into Toronto and come out with at least a serious win. And the Rays are right back in this because the Rays schedule, they're about to play a lot of games against the Astros and the Marlins, who come in next season. And the Astros really are kind of an average team too. They're not really that hot here either. They lost big time yesterday against, I think it was the Rockies they lost to, or some team. I don't remember who they were playing, but they lost big time yesterday. So keep your heads up. Rays fans, keep your heads up. It's a long season. We got a long summer. We've only played, I think, 30, 40 games. Not even, I don't think. It's a very long season. I am not looking at standings now. Do not look at standings. Standings are completely pointless right now. What you're looking for is a good sweep today. By the way, hopefully not another rain delay. It looks likely.
May not get the game in today. I mean, I'm looking at the satellite, and it's coming in. It's coming in like.
I'm expecting a rain out, Ray. I'm expecting a rain out. I'm expecting a postponement.
Alex, brother, thanks for joining me for a
You are listen, you guys are very welcome. Before I go, I want to wish all the mothers a very happy Mother's Day. I love my own personal mother myself. She's enjoying herself a nice, beautiful cruise with my father. I'm not sure where they went. It was just last minute. They said, "Hey, we're not going to be in town. We're going on a cruise. We'll see you next weekend." So I'll be seeing my mom next weekend for Mother's Day. But for all the beautiful moms out there, happy Mother's Day. You are loved. Without you guys, we are not as good as we are without our great moms out there.
You know how I know Eric Hart uses, and it's Eric Hart. We all know that Bucks Race Bolts is Eric. He says it's pouring here right now, but he spells it P-O-O-R-I-N-G. It's pouring here. 100%, brother. I love Eric and Alex. I appreciate
you. But listen, thank you so much. Hopefully, if the Rays get the game in today, it'll be good. Next time we'll talk some Bucks. I know before I went on the show, you were talking about the new signing and draft pick of Benjamin
Morrison. Yes.
Morrison. Yes, I think that was a great pickup. He's going to be huge. I think him and Jamel Dean are going to be battling it out in the quarterback position. So that's something we can talk about next week. But dude, thank you so much, guys. Follow the best of the Bay, Tampa Bay Ray, the best in the Bay. And I will hopefully talk to you next week or on the Sports Web.
Brother, I appreciate you, Alex. Take care. Alex,
thanks,
always a pleasure talking to you, brother. Again, I'm going to go ahead and explain myself because now it's just the two of us. Of course, unless you have you're streaming me or you're having a couple of streaming party here on Happy Mother's Day again to everybody out there. Again, make sure I always end it with saying, make sure you let them know you care, but they're, obviously. And here's what I'm going to go ahead and say. A lot of y'all know, and I appreciate all the condolences and what happened, but I lost my mother in 2024. And this is the first Mother's Day that she's not there. And, every day I still go to call or, go to have something to say, and especially here on Mother's Day. And I only say that because, time is not promised. That's why they call this the present. But no, seriously, reach out and let your mothers know, maybe your bonus mother, maybe it's just someone who was a mother and was very motherly and taught you as a father or a mother how to be a great parent. So make sure you reach out today and let them know on Mother's Day. Again, comments here. Eric Bucks Ray Bull says it's pouring here, and then now I've been saying all along. Again, I want to go back to what I heard there last night. Because I'm not home to watch FanDuel. I am out almost about every night, and then here I am on a Sunday. Sunday's the one day I get to enjoy it, and it's not Father's Day, it's Mother's Day, so I won't get to do the entire barbecue. It's all about me. But isn't every day all about me? But they're doing the replay of the Brewers Rays game from yesterday. And again, Caminero at third base with the defense. You get once those two errors happen behind. And if you got anything to say, anything Mother's Day, you want to do a special shout out to someone, you want to give me a first name or just a nickname, maybe Mom or Mummy or whatever, or if you want to have a wish for Mother's Day, please share it in the comments. But those two errors in the ninth inning. And Alex said Pete Fairbanks doing Pete Fairbanks things, and this guy's wound up tight. And I don't mean tight in a bad way, but he's definitely he's a closer. That's exactly what Pete is, and he holds the Rays record for most consecutive closes or for closes in the season. Well, no, it's most consecutive. Was it 26? It was last year. Was it the year before? He had 26, 27. Was it Cincinnati where it ended? Share in the comments right now if I'm even close. Bucks Rays Bolts, you're still watching. You tell me Pete Fairbanks owns the consecutive or closing record for the Rays, and tell me if it was 26 and if it was ended in Cincinnati. I'm going to call that a Quinella bet, and I'm going to take it, or a parlay. But the two errors there, and Pete comes through, and of course he ends up with runners at the corners, first and third. Then he walks, and he's one out. Walks the next batter, so you got bases loaded, one out, top of the ninth. And I am never. And I before then, and that was right after that's when I made that post yesterday, and I'm like, it's Mother's Day, and I don't even know if I want to be talking sports, if you guys and girls wanted to talk sports. That's why I put it out there, anything you want to talk about. And I do want to close it with the little stadium deal, but so I'm listening to the game last night, and mind you, again, I don't have a visual, but as I'm looking at this visual right now, and they're showing this on the FanDuel network again here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, the attendance was really nice. I see a lot of smiles. I see a lot of Devil Rays, the old Devil Rays jerseys, of course. Saturdays is when your Rays were their pretty close to the OG Devil Ray jerseys. And but I'm listening to the game and just flip back and forth and the pressure, and I'm thinking about 6'8", whatever he is, Pete Fairbanks standing, or not 6'8", but tall Pete Fairbanks standing on a mound there after the 2 errors, which is going to shake almost any pitcher up, especially a pitcher for the Rays in 2025, because they know they're not getting the offensive production. Taj Bradley should have got that victory yesterday. And I love Taj on the post game. He's talking with the guys. He's talking in the locker room, and he's talking about he didn't even leave the dugout during the rain delay because there was no doubt he wanted to go back in there. And that was the big question. Going into the 5th inning, Taj has already had an outstanding day. But, you get all warmed up, you get all hot, you throw so many pitches. It's the 5th inning. You have a rain delay of 25, 30 minutes, and you're wondering, and Taj said there was no way in heck he was going to come off that field. He wanted to go out there and finish his performance. But the Rays in 2025, the pitchers, they're not getting that. And it's kind of a Rays thing. It's historical with your Rays. They don't get a lot of offensive production, except for last season, which is not only why it was so incredibly awesome as a Rays fan, but it was also historically, we set some records historically in baseball over that first 30-game stretch in those first 14 home games in 2024. But Taj stayed out there. The 2 errors, the bases loaded. Pete gets a pop-up, 2 pop-ups, and you love that because everyone's contributing. And then they come in, Meisner gets on base, Meisner gets over there to second, and then, of course, you get Jamkowski. I love Jam because he jams and he goes back to like his father when he was a young kid. He put up the net in the garage so he could just hit into the net. He's that contact hitter. That's what he's supposed to do. Is punch it through, get that seeing eye double or single, but running, get the bases, the runners moved up a base, and of course get that run home. So I go ahead and I'll say this here, and I'll get off here. I don't want to keep you all on a Sunday, and I get home to my family and celebrate Mother's Day, like I hope you guys and girls are having a chance to do today as well. The news this week about Orlando and the Dreamers, I would be so remiss if I didn't even at least touch this here. And it's almost because everything I've said along the last decade, or has that, just covering the story with the stadium and getting it done and keeping the Rays here in baseball and how hard it is because it's the attendance has always been a thing, but we've got all the acreage. There's a way to make it done. And Stu says it's not enough. The storm scare him away. And you have the Dreamers stepping up. First of all, they got a big money guy. His name, I don't even really want to know it. That's why it's one of those things where you kind of keep an eye on it. But he's the owner of Heartland Dental, one of the biggest dental business in the entire United States of America. Huge St. Louis Cardinals fan. You can I'll just throw it out there. Go back and look at the Brody Brazil post from earlier this week. Maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, of course, JP's had his finger on the pulse of what's going on with this story. JP Peterson from the JP Peterson Show. Shout out to you, JP. But JP mentioned the other day with Nick Geddes. Maybe it was with Nick, but he mentions that everything's gone quiet. Everyone's quiet now. And so you hear that. And of course, they will say that, those NDAs get wound up tight and everybody's told to keep their mouths shut toward the end. I'm paraphrasing from JP and the other, but all of his contacts that have pretty much gave him everything along the way. It's going to be here to do. They've all quieted up now. And I was caught in that kind of it's a bad middle ground. The Yankees were in town, and of course we lose the heartbreaking at Game 3 of the series with the Phillies in town, and there were a lot of Phillies fans who follow this team. A lot of people in the National League think the Phillies have a shot at being one of those 3 at the end of the season, one of those 3 in a race there for the World Series to win the National League pennant. And I was caught up in there's no news. What's going on? I'm trying to figure out, what is this? What is that? And it all comes back to Stu Sternberg, which is what is probably the most not infuriating thing, but the most perplexing thing is that you don't know exactly what this guy, what is his intentions? Is it just because you have? I'm not going to go into that the lawsuit going back to 2014, but is it just to continue to hold this team because you realize that moving across the way there could either prove out that having a team here will just bring in all of us, make everything right, being where it should be in a more centralized, geographically get located space. And we haven't really kind of seen that. Everybody keeps saying, well, they sold out the 11,000 seats. And I'm like, but they can only get 5,000 or 6,000 to go. And I look across the street here, and I'm happy that Mayor Ken Welch here in St. Petersburg is already talking about the fact that we're going to start the development plans going around there, because we're not going to wait any longer. We're not going to continue to wait, because that's the reason why. And I think, to our own, not chagrin, Pinellas County and St. Pete, but the fact that everything's developed. They're already building they're already building 3 and 4 story little condominiums west of 34th Street. St. Pete is building out quite nicely. Unfortunately, they got a good administrative staff, and they've got a great mayor in Ken Welch, who are making sure they keep you got balls in the air everywhere, because you're developing over here. We're developing down by Mirror Lake, and we're coming out here, and we're moving this, and we're going to do this, and we have this going on, and we have the bridges we're building out in Old Northeast, and it's continuing to build out all the way to the beaches. But if one thing came about the last couple of days, I've said that the team is here in Tampa Bay, right? The team's got to be here in Tampa Bay, because I don't think, for some reason, there's a reason why Orlando didn't have a baseball team before. Then people are going to say, oh, well, they weren't interested back then. Well, they were literally the house mouse. I still think that there's an opportunity that there's going to be an owner that can come in here and own this team. And the reason why I say that, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the reason why I say it's still an opportunity is because the original plans set back in 1998 by our forefathers and mothers, happy Mother's Day, everybody, who were already here in St. Petersburg, and they brought this team here. Historically, that was meant to be here. The Rays, whether you agree or not, whether you live in Pinellas, Hillsborough, Pasco, Sarasota, I don't care where. Pasco, I do care. Whether you agree or not, historically, the Rays were meant to be here. The city of St. Petersburg was meant to step up and build Tropicana Field, even though they called it the White Elephant in Florida's, or the world's largest indoor flea market for years. And even though now we're getting to a point where we've got fans coming in and buildings going up all around, and St. Pete's building out, it's no longer that sleepy little bed community with the St. Petersburg Times, Tampa Bay Times now, and like one other business down there. It's actually, it's growing out quite nicely. And its stadium still works in St. Petersburg for everybody but the people who also don't want to drive. I get that. I'm never going to make that argument, because I have to drive across that bridge for every Lightning game. I have to drive across that bridge for every Buccaneers game. I have to drive across that bridge used to have to go over to Ybor when I used to go over there drinking back in my younger days, causing trouble. Now I just stay right here in the Berg. This is pretty okay here. And I know a lot of you Hillsborough County residents, or residents from all over West Central Florida, know this, because I see you all coming here and having a great time. The deal was, whoever owned this team in 2027, if they were still in the city limits, they could have the development around Tropicana Field there, or what becomes the gas plant district. And of course, the Hayes Group and everybody put it together. I know I'm just rehashing little things here. It's not going to be that deal. That deal has sailed. That ship has left the terminal. The train has left the station. I still think there's an opportunity that could be done here, and you can utilize the area around there as you continue to develop. Now, it's not going to look quite like it did there. It's not going to be a three-way split between the county, the city, and the owner. That'd be an interesting play to see if the county even got on board with that, continuing to use those tourism dollars to build a stadium, because it's just good. I love the fact that now the plans if the team is playing there in Tampa, is that we're going to have a convention center over here, or a convention type of a center. I also agree that Al Lang Field has to stay Al Lang Field. It's just part of what it has to be. We always talk about green space. That's the largest, beautiful, open outdoor. It's a beautiful pitch. And of course, I'm making that pitch for the Rowdies in soccer, and they talk about making an amphitheater. When I first heard Mayor Ken Welch say that this week, it kind of felt more like he was probably just putting it out there that this is one of the plans we're looking at, because it does make sense, right? You got the Dolly, you got the Mahaffey, you got the waterfront, you got the marina, something there that allows you to enjoy the waterfront, all the yachts and the boats bobbing in the marina. Rising tide raises all vessels. Al Lang was the mayor that brought baseball here. Historically, the Rays were meant to be here for these last 27 years, 2 years away, and hopefully 2 years back, if not more, extended, as Alex Munster talked about, as they put a new roof on Tropicana Field, and they continue to have enchant and all the other events, the graduation ceremonies this time of year. We're coming up to graduation season right now, and it's getting to be the hottest. And you can see on a rainy day like here in St. Petersburg and Pinellas County, one of the most inconsistent weather spots. And you can't just go having these huge graduation ceremonies outside. And logistically speaking, Tropicana Field takes care of 6 graduations a day, 4 graduations a day. They're rotating in and out of here. It's a beautiful space. We need that convention center. We need a meeting area. a place where we can have concerts, a place where we can, and that has to be part of that, because as you put in the Woodson Museum and as you put in keep Booker Creek through there and you start building some things around it, you also have an entertainment space. You got to have that. The amphitheater down at the waterfront, it's outdoors. It literally cancels concerts for me probably all summer. I mean, we go out there and we go to the Rowdies games and we enjoy those post-season concerts. I just don't know if I'm going to pay $150, $200 to go see Sister Hazel out there in the middle of August when there's chances are it's going to rain and be rained out or have to possibly be canceled, which is why building into that convention center over here and not putting it in to have the ability to be like an old Bayfront Center, which was the old original meeting spot here for so many years. I'm just preaching right now. I shouldn't be doing this, but I like that idea. I like that idea because it gives us not only a place to maybe possibly to shelter in place because it's built to go against the Category 4 or greater hurricane, but a convention center so people can come from all over the country and the world to come here in convention as they're staying all on our Gulf beaches or staying over in Hillsborough or Tampa, and they're coming over here and having a great time. And we're utilizing that space because at the end of the day, it's what St. Pete's become. It's become a really nice city to come visit and have a good time. I don't have, my God, I got no more comments. I probably should have ended this thing right away today. It was Mother's Day, and it's probably a bad excuse. I just wanted to get that out of the way. When I heard the chants of "Let's Go Rays" in the ninth inning last night, and I'm just listening, and this, of course, this is after Pete already did this wonderful job locking him down after the 2 errors, and I hear "Let's Go Rays," let's go, and chant. And it's just solid and it cheers. And I don't care if somebody's putting microphones underneath the seats in just specific sections. It sounded really great. And it got me excited again. It got me realizing, yeah, the Tampa Bay Rays are the Tampa Bay Rays. And we can talk about other places and, the value of something for a city that doesn't have it is probably greater or willing to provide more than a city that already does. Maybe, no, at the end of the day, I think the reason why Rob Manfred says his team stays in Tampa Bay and the reason why the Rays do stay in Tampa Bay is he realizes there's a way to get it done. The only thing I don't like at this point is that there still seems to be no clear course of action to how it gets done. But stay tuned. Rays have the game 3 against the Brewers today. Try to get that sweep. They go on the road for 3 games against the Toronto Blue Jays, which is the second hottest team in the American League. Make sure there's no more comments. And there's not. I'm going to go ahead and end this by saying Happy Mother's Day, everybody. I hope you guys and girls have a great day. And, of course, for everybody else, just everyone needs to know someone cares. This weekend, reach out and let them know. I always say it feels good to give it, but it feels good to get it too. Have a great day, everybody. A great day, everybody. Wait, what's going on here? I'm going to run this again. Thanks, Peter Blake, for rocking this part. This is actually the reason why I want to do shows like I run this thing. This will be the 3rd time. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you on the next Cup of Ray.